last video, we created style rules that turned our navigation links into things that look like buttons and gives us a lot more control over how they look. In this video, we're going to provide some more CSS rules that will provide contrast between things like headings and just the plain text that's in our document. So let's start by coming into our styles.css file. Let's start in the body section. Here we need to make sure that all of the font on the page is all of a special style called Times New Roman. Quick word about how we do this. Since the words Times New Roman have blank spaces between those words, then we have to wrap all of that in quotation marks. The next one also has two words, Courier New, and then put the comma outside the quotation marks. And then if a computer doesn't have Times New Roman or Courier New, then we'll let the browser pick the font, and we just want to make sure that the browser picks a serif font. We're going to do the same thing down here in our H1, H2, and H3. These are our headers, and we want the font family of our headers to be sans serif, not serif. And if you're not clear about the distinction between serif and sans serif, then be sure and read chapter 12 in the textbook. So this will be Verdana and Arial, and then sans serif. Now the reason I've chosen Times New Roman, Courier New, Verdana, and Arial as these fonts is because Windows computers, Mac computers, and Linux computers all have these four fonts on them. So pretty much we can pretty well predict that all of our users will have these fonts on their computers. Control S to save this, and now you can see some contrast difference already showing. Our heading elements are now sans serif, and all of our content is serif. The next change we need to make, we'll also make in both of these two selectors. The body section, we're going to add a font size that will affect everything on the page, except where we tell it not to. So we're going to have font size of 1.1 EM and a line height 1.5. And the line height has a numeric value, but it does not have to have a measurement like EM or PX or anything like that. So font size 1.1 EM and the line height of 1.5, and we'll use Control S to save that. And then we can see in our document that we're adding a lot of white space. We've increased the size of the letters. Makes it easier, especially for people who are older, to read. But this is a designer's preference. You have to decide what kind of look and feel that you want for your readers of your sites. Now, we don't want these same settings to apply to our headings. In the same way that we want a different font for our headings, we also want there to be different line heights and font sizes for those headings. Font size for our heading is going to be 1.2 EM, slightly larger, and the line height 1.6. Then Control S to save. The next change that we want to make is going to be to the important words that we find inside our heading element, the H1 elements. Let's come into Constitution and find the word Constitution in the H1 element and select it. Then Control-Shift-A, and we're going to put a span element on here with a class of shadow. So span.shadow, and press Enter. We're going to do the same thing in Declaration, except that we're going to select the three words, Declaration of Independence. We're going to put the same span.shadow, Enter, and come into Amendments. Same thing to the word amendments. So we have provided the HTML markup that we need around this content that we're wanting to style. So we'll come back into styles, and right below the H1, H2, H3 selectors, we'll create a rule here for our class of shadow. And for the shadow class, we're going to first of all spread the letters apart. So we're going to have letter spacing. And that letter spacing is not large, but it's 0.2 EMs. We're going to make the font size of this to be 1.2 EM. And then we want to put a text shadow around our letters. Text shadow of 1px, 2px, 1px, and then a color of hex symbol, the hash symbol, and then we'll use 777. It's just a light gray color. And we'll take a look at these words that we've turned into the shadow class in each of our pages, and you can see now that Declaration of Independence, those important words, the letters are spaced apart, they're slightly larger, they've got a bit of a shadow to them. This is what we mean by designing and using contrast in our design. It draws the reader's attention to the things that are most important on the page. Another thing that we can do with text selectors is we can work with what's called a pseudo selector. And what we'll do here is that we want to focus on all of the paragraphs, and then we want to get just the first letter of each paragraph. What we'll do here is that we'll make the font size of this letter just slightly again larger than what it would normally be. Press Ctrl S here to save this. Let me just show you here. Up in the body section, we made sure that all of the font sizes were 1.1 EM. And now what I'm doing is saying that for all of the first letters of the first paragraph, I want the font size to be 1.1 EM. Well, isn't that the same height? No. And the reason it's not is because when I define the style for the body, that means everything on the body, everything on the page. But when I come now to one of the child elements of the body section, and a paragraph is a child element of the body section, whenever I focus on just that first letter in there, then I'm saying make it 1.1 EM. And so what this is doing is making this one letter to be 1.1 sizes larger than all of the other letters in that paragraph. And so this is what we mean by inheritance. Values are inherited, and then you can change the appearance of something by just changing the size and making it larger than it normally would be. So we'll come in here after font size. We'll add one more style rule to this, and we want to make sure that this first letter of each paragraph is coming from the font family, the same font family that we used up for the headings. And you'll see why in just a moment. I'll just copy those and paste it down, and then Ctrl S to save. And now what you see is that the first letter in every paragraph has a larger letter in a different font, and this is providing contrast. This is just contrast for drawing your reader's attention, and you may like it, you may not, you can change it, but we're just using styles for text elements to show how we can provide contrast in design in our pages. Now there's just one more thing we want to do, and that is to come to, at the top of our documents, we've got this one paragraph up here. It's the paragraph at the top that has the date in the Constitution and Declaration file. So I want to come to the Constitution file. We need to get that line centered with the title of the Constitution. So I'm going to come to the line that has the date in it. And I'm going to just press space, and I'm going to create a class here, and the class name is going to be Document Age. Control S. I'm going to add that same class to that similar paragraph in the Declaration file, the one that's got the date of the Declaration of Independence. Control S to save. And now, whenever I save these files, I come to the styles rules. Then I'm going to create a style called document age. I'm going to simply make this a text align center, Control S, and that pops that date over in the middle aligned with the Constitution, and in declaration it does the same thing here. So we've added contrast to our page. We've enhanced the design with some selectors that will add contrast. Makes it a little bit more interesting to look at. And it's that way in all of our documents now.